Hi, mister. How are you? My name is Daniel Flores, and I'm going to present you my lesson plan number 13 from my second term report. The topic is third conditional. The four objectives that I used in this lesson plan are the following. Listening objective was recognized and how the third conditional is. That's a listening. And the speaking objective is discuss and rank unusual and unusual behaviors. And the reading objective is situate the usage of third conditional in the context on unreal situations. And the writing objective was identify the punctuation and exponent past perfect and would, because you know that this is the structure of this conditional. Now, let's talk about the methodologies and strategy that I used in this lesson plan, because that's the next part from my lesson plan. The methodologies that I used were two. The first one was flipped classroom high tech. That you know that it means that the students do problem solving exercise in class. They got to work a lot in class. And the second methodology that I used was the high tech approach to learning. That means that students use many different types of technology to aid students in their classroom learning. You know that it is important nowadays the use of technology, because if we don't know how to use the technology, we are in troubles nowadays, because this is the way that we're teaching classes. That's why I used this methodology. And I used two strategies. The first strategy was the computer games. That's the first one, computer games, because educational computer games can be purchased for students and to use to review and explore concepts. They learn by playing. That's why I used the computer games. And the other strategy that I used is the learning log. That means that students write responses to teacher questions and a summarize of what they have learned. They have learned or what they do not understand. Okay, that's why it's called learning log. Let's move on to the next part of my lesson plan. The next part of my lesson plan is the anticipatory set. That I had to do the following. First, read the class. Read the class and start a general conversation. A general conversation like asking the students what are their plans for today or tonight and this weekend. Try to catch their attention. Yes, because they don't like that we as teacher, yeah, we start the class, okay, this is for this and this and this. No, we break the ice, like something like that. Okay, so I start to talk about my own plans and introduce the topic. I introduce the topic using the third conditional in by telling my plans, my own plans. Okay, this is the anticipatory set. In the next part from my lesson plan is the main teaching input. Okay, in this part I played a video that contains the third conditional explanation. And then we talked about something in the past and did not happen, and imagine how things could have been different, and express the past consequence of an unrealistic action or situation in the past. We use the third conditional. I start giving the usage of this conditional. Okay? And after that, after giving the usage of third conditional, I explain that the result clause in this third conditional of this sentence will always be with would have. Would have plus the past participle of the verbs. Okay? Would have followed by the past participle of the verbs. And the condition clause will always be with past perfect. That means the structure, the subject had the past participle of the verb and the complement. And I write these structures on the whiteboard of Zoom. Okay? In the next part for my lesson plan is the modeling. In the modeling part, I use the positive teacher language. It is important that we as teachers use this. If we want good results in our classes, we always have to be positive. They won't learn by punishing them. No. They need to receive support from us. So that's why using this positive language, reinforced language, lets students what they are doing well, so they can continue to make improvements, because they know that they can still work hard by their own, because they've got confidence. And before students begin challenging works, reminding language helps them remember what they can do to help themselves. This modeling is very useful in classes. It is, because I have used this and I've seen huge changes in my students. Number 7 goes the guided practice. Okay, after modeling goes the guided practice. In this guided practice, I present on the screen of Zoom, because this is the platform that I used during my classes. The Zoom session to the third conditional worksheet. Sorry. I present the third conditional worksheet in order to practice with students, and let them write in the answers of each exercise on screen with my guideline. Okay? Because we cannot let the students write whatever they want. No. We always have to be there as guide. Okay? And after that, I always encourage my students that if they want to do something more challenging, they've got to do this exercise by their own. But they still receive my guideline. In the next part from my lesson plan goes the independent practice. In that part, they really need to do it by their own, because that's why it's called independent practice. In this practice, I tell students to construct sentences, either beginning with conditional or result clauses, using punctuation accordingly. Okay? Then I tell students to send the link. Well, I send the link to my students by direct message of Zoom, and after sending them the link of the game, because I always like playing games or doing exercise online, I send the link. After send them this link, they've got to make a screenshot with the result after finishing. Okay, they've got to send them back those screenshots in order to realize how they are learning or how well the topic is understood, because this is the way that I can measure the content learned from my students. Okay, this is the independent practice. It is important. I always use this because it helped me a lot. We cannot just send the link and okay, do the exercise and let me know when you finish. No. That's why I always tell them that they must send me back their screenshots of the results. Okay? In the next part goes the assessment. In this part, I tell my students, the students will have to create a short text into their notebooks. And they've got to imagine that they were born rich. They were born rich, and using the third conditional explaining what the students would have done with the money. And it's illicit that students present their text to the class orally. Okay? They've got to do it. They don't have to do or take a picture of the short text. No. They've got to present their text orally, because it will help their speaking skills. Okay? And in the last part, the closing review and follow up, I write the first part of a sentence, and individually students have to suggest the second half. For example, I write I would have bought a car if they've got to complete. I write another sentence like I wouldn't have lost the competition if they've got to use their imagination. They've got to be creative. Another example, blank, if I had studied, what would be the end? You see? And the last one, I would have seen my mother if, complete the sentence. And the last one, I would have bought a new bike if my father, complete the sentence. I wrote this first part or the second part of these sentences, and the students individually have to help me to complete. Obviously, they got to use their imagination. Okay? Every student have to give me a different ending or a different beginning, depending on if I give the first part or the second part of the sentence. So this is my lesson plan number 13. I hope that you liked. Take care, mister. Have a nice rest of the day. Bye, mister.